Excellency, Ministry colleagues, Global Peatland Initiative partners, peatland experts, ladies and gentlemen. Selamat pagi, selamat siang, good morning, good afternoon from wonderful Jakarta. As the FAO representative to Indonesia, I am delighted to open today's webinar session. Let me begin by thanking, on behalf of the FAO team in Jakarta, our regional office in Bangkok and our headquarters in Rome, Let me begin by thanking all of you, our partners at the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, the International Tropical Peatlands Centre, as well as our partners in the Global Peatlands Initiative, the UN Environment Programme and the Greifswald Mire Centre for the spirit, energy and dedication that characterises this joint collaborative effort. I'd also like to take this opportunity to express our appreciation of the German government, who are supporting the Global Peatlands Initiative, including these activities here in Indonesia, through their International Climate Initiative, the IKI. Today is the opening session of the two-part webinar series called Peatland Management and Wet Livelihood Opportunities in Indonesia. The second webinar will take place in February. This seminar, though, is just one element, but an important one, of the support that FAO and other partners are providing the government of Indonesia, and more specifically the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, to advance their cutting-edge efforts to further strengthen peatland management. And let me highlight from the start that as a basis for more sustainable livelihood approaches, FAO and the Global Peatlands Initiative partners encourage re-wetting peatlands that have been drained and managing them in wet conditions, avoiding drainage and avoiding clearing with fire. These efforts that we're going to discuss today focus on identifying options for sustainable livelihoods from wet peatland landscapes through enhanced conservation, restoration, and sustainable use. So why are we here today, and why is it so important that we are here? As I've said, Indonesia, as we all know, lies at the leading edge of sustainable peatland management and restoration. But the challenges remain huge, and the search for long-term options and solutions goes on, which is why we're here today. But the potential upsides of getting it right are enormous. Firstly, there are the livelihood benefits, and these we know are important. Finding the right, the smart balance of traditional and innovative means to develop sustainable livelihoods in areas around, but also on peatlands lies at the heart of the sustainable future we all seek. Broadening the range of livelihood opportunities associated with effective peatland management and use will drive the long-term sustainable solutions that we seek. The significant potential economic opportunities from sustainable use of peatlands are well known. A 2015 study on the utilization of non-forest timber products in Indonesia's peat swamps, for example, identified 500 species with a known economic use, and more than 80 of those with significant economic potential. And in addition to the plants, there is a great variety of other livelihood sources we know, such as sustainable harvesting of fish, and small-scale livestock opportunities, including ducks, and others such as mushroom growing and other activities too, that can be developed on re-wetted peatlands. But improved peatland management will also deliver enormous and important environmental benefits to Indonesia and the broader international community too, through reduced risk of persistent fires and health benefits from reduced toxic smoke inhalation, as well as reduced greenhouse gas emissions, protection of coastal areas and other secured ecosystem services. Today's webinar brings together an impressive group of experts to share their experiences, knowledge and thoughts. And we have a packed and really interesting agenda. So I'd like to thank all of the contributors and participants for joining us today as we search for answers to the two main questions that frame today's webinar. First, what examples exist for sustainable value chain, finance and policy development for improved peatland management? And second, what other landscape level approaches exist that help to maintain peatlands wet ensuring communities' livelihoods. So, without further delay, I would like to first introduce our keynote speaker and then give him the floor. His Excellency Vice Minister Bapak Alaway Duhong, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, needs little introduction, I know. He is a true global peatland expert. His Excellency Bapak Alaway was appointed Deputy Head of Indonesia's Peatland Restoration Agency in 2016. But he's always been a thinker and a practitioner with vision. Indeed, his doctoral dissertation many years ago focused on the restoration of degraded peatlands in central Kalimantan. In 2003, he founded the Institute of Environmental Education and Training in Palangkaraya. And for the last 15 years, he's been heavily involved in the restoration of peatlands and served as an expert on multiple international and non-governmental organizations. Excellency, the floor is yours. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Thank you. Shall I share presentation from here, or can you do it, Diana or Maria?
I believe we, let's ask Ibu Haruni, but it is possible for you to share directly from there. Perfect.
All right, I can do it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Rick. The speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. First of all, I would like to extend my gratitude and appreciation to the FAO, as well as UNEP in collaboration with our Ministry of Environment and Forestry, and the International Tropical Peatlands Centre for organizing the Global Peatlands Initiative workshop. Indeed, it is my pleasure to open a series of this online seminar with a topic or theme, peatland management and web livelihood opportunities in Indonesia. I'm happy to see so many of you joining us online today, and to help contribute to our common goals under the Global Peatlands Initiative, to shape peatland as the world's largest terrestrial organic carbon stock, and to prevent its being emitted to the atmosphere. Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to elaborate the reasons and the importance of the topic to our country as well as globally. First of all, I'm not sure why is my sorry, I need to do it manually actually. First of all, peatlands are critical ecosystems that play important roles in controlling climate change, protecting biodiversity and environments, and contributing to the community livelihood. However, it is facing potential risks and of degradation and further destruction due mainly anthropogenic or human activities coupled with fragile characteristic of the ecosystem. Drainage is one of the particular recognized as responsible for at least 5% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. And the goal of the Paris agreements actually to limit this global warming, net zero emission by 2050 cannot happen actually without including peatland. And then even with only thin layers of peat, for example, like 15 centimeter, it can contain more carbon than tropical high carbon stock than forest. Peatland are the most space-effective carbon stores of all terrestrial ecosystem. About 20% of the global greenhouse gas emissions are resulted from forest degradation, land use, and land use change, including peatland. In our first national determined contribution, or we call it NDC, to the Paris Climate Agreement, our greenhouse gas emissions reductions are expected to be achieved by the forestry and other land use sectors. This is about 60% from the national emission reduction target. We are now updating our NDC to include more ambitious goal in this new decade. Drainage of peatland has a potential impact on the loss of carbons and increased livelihood of peat fires, which could lead to the several problem to the communities and the country at large. Fires, for example, in 2015 and also in 2019 are just example of the situation that is likely to occur unless rewetting is continuously implemented and scaled up. We have set up the policies on the peatland management and priorities on environmental strategies to restore degraded peatland while conserving the healthy peatland. I'm not so sorry. I'm just a bit disappointed with this PowerPoint. Why it's cannot moving? Yeah. But anyway, I just continue my speech then. Could lead environmental strategies to restore the degraded peatland while conserving the healthy peatland to support alternative livelihoods for the local communities. We do monitors and put strong obligation to concession, especially concession holders, in restoring deep peatland and transforming into protected areas. No new drainage can take place. The wetting of peatland is very costly, and large uncertainties remain of the feasibility to rewet large areas. Drained peatland continue to emit until they are wet again. Drainage of peatland for the cultivation of crops and plantation or other agricultural practices has led to the large losses of land productivity. Drainage-based cultivation may only be sustained for very limited period. Hence, rewetting in Indonesia has been implemented in many areas of peatlands and achieved important advance. However, they may still fall short of what is needed to reduce fire hazard and emission. Therefore, we need to focus the attention on the ground, gather the lesson from the first phase, and use it to enhance coordination and scale up effective peatland restoration. COVID-19 pandemic may have posed some immediate challenges that we need to anticipate. If the crisis continues, economic hardship may cause pressure on the existing peatland. Hence, we need to be aware of and plans for our generation. Our government has set up national economic recovery program to improve livelihood and to build resilience of communities who depend on peatland. Through this program, we expect the economic and social problem caused by the COVID-19 pandemic could be recovered Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, we have many communities living surrounding close by peatland, and they may be exposed to fires and haze risks. At the same time, they can also benefit of peatland, in particular when the drainage peatlands are being rewetted. There is an urgency to rewet peatland to prevent fires, to improve livelihood security. The challenge is how to rewet areas of peatland as quick as possible. We cannot flood all drain peatland and abandon them. We may only be able to solve the drainage problem while maintaining production, for example, through paludiculture, wet agriculture, or forestry. We need for betters. Thank you. We need for better cross-sectoral and interagency coordination and collaboration, including sharing all this kind of best practices as well as data. We need also to advance with harmonizing regulation to achieve common goals for sustainable development. Peatlands are recognized as the important natural values and benefits for achieving sustainable development. The challenges are very dynamic, not only related to the protection and restoration, but also challenge in improving community welfare, increasing land productivity, managing water resources or hydrological, and other environmental services, and other challenges toward a sustainable development. The advances achieved, those work could be not been possible without environmental protection policies and commitments, and this needs to be maintained to continue the activities. Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, as we understand that peatlands are fragile ecosystem, I would like therefore to underline here the importance of landscape approach in managing peatlands. Drainage in what may seem as a small part of the peatland, but it will affect the entire area of peatland unit. We call it also peatland hydrological unit, as water flows across the unit area. We should always keep in mind about the fragility of peatland ecosystem. As we also know well, drainage of peatlands lead to increased emission and fires. Restoration targets have been partly achieved. However, the success and effectiveness of these activities need to be evaluated as to whether they are contributing to emission reduction or not. How these areas can be accounted for, and the following international guidelines, such as the ones provided by international panels on climate change, are the key factors to ensure emission reduction from restoration can also be accounted to access the further funding. Peatland must be wet. That is the only sustainable pathway to avoid fires and haze, emission, subsidence, and flooding, loss of productivity, all of which ultimately lead to the loss of livelihood. Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, Our joint workshop aimed to supporting us, key stakeholders, in advancing with sustainable livelihoods from peatland landscapes. Especially this time, it's important to engage with communities and secure the livelihood of people who live in and around peatland areas. Wet livelihood exists and they need to be further developed with sustainable value chains, supported and shared further. Wet livelihood means the sustainable livelihood option from peatland landscape managed in wet condition. It can include activities such as utilization of various biomass in a limited scale for food, feed, and fibers, as well as energy purposes. The most common livelihood option is related to fishing and hunting, although a large variety of species growing on peatland benefit the people living around them. Some activities maintain the peat body, peat vegetation cover, as well as water level at or close to the peatland surface. These characteristics help maintain the peat and its ecosystem services. We would like to showcase some more the existing successful wet sustainable management approaches for livelihood in Indonesia peatland landscape. This will serve as example that showcase the largely untapped potential for wet peatland landscapes that provide livelihood to our communities. Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, how will we move forward from here? The result from this workshop is expected to contribute to determining what are the key factors to plan, implement, and monitor the improved livelihood option in peatland landscapes. Indonesia is proud to carry on contributing to the Global Peatland Initiative and investing in knowledge sharing through our joint International Tropical Peatlands Centre. Indonesia has already included peatland as part of the national strategies for years. Our peatland management has also been acknowledged by international communities to be one of the that can be learned by other fellow countries, especially in peatlands. As one of the leading tropical peatland countries, we are happy to share what we have achieved so far and experiences learned from this workshop. At this stage, there is a need for further capacity development and supporting our communities, in particularly in these difficult times of COVID-19 pandemics. I'm committed to building back better with a long-term vision for developing livelihoods from peatland. I believe by continuing our works, we will be able to build back better and achieve our goals together. Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this workshop will be a good opportunity to share and exchange knowledge and experiences. And our ministry is looking forward to the result of this workshop, building on the extensive works on peatland management. We hope to increase the restoration and improve management of peatland for the well-being of our people. I thank you for your kind attention and wish you all fruitful exchange discussion. Thank you very much. Arigato. Terima kasih.
Thank you so much, Deputy Minister. That was incisive, it was insightful, it was inspiring. So thank you very much indeed for that keynote address. You clearly underscored the absolute importance of identifying economically viable livelihood solutions and options for people living in and around or on and around the peatlands. I think you also demonstrated and explained and illustrated very clearly the government's commitment to the work that is being done but also the challenges that remain, which is why we're working together so closely, shoulder to shoulder on this. And I think you also underscored the importance of finding that balance between the short term, the long term, in a way that also ensures that we build back better, which is a much used phrase in 2020, 2021. But when we're talking about the restoration and conservation of these peatlands, it really is about building back better. So thank you so much for your time and for your thought and your wisdom. And with that, let me please hand over to Elizabeth and perhaps Maria to take us forward into what I know will be an incredibly interesting and exciting webinar. And I think also a fact that is highlighted by the 153 participants that I now see registered online, which I think is an excellent number, far exceeding expectations. And I think it's also wonderful to see the geographical and technical and organizational range that we have here, from academia, from the public sector, from the private sector, and from practitioners all here in Indonesia, but also from around the world. So many, many thanks again, Your Excellency. That was really, really, really valuable and inspiring as well. And let me hand over to, I think, Elizabeth and Maria to take it forward. Thank you very much indeed.
Right, thank you, welcome.
Terima kasih, Bapak.
Terima kasih also on my behalf, and also to our FAO representative in Indonesia, Dick, for a nice introduction. We covered already quite many points on the objectives of today. Let me hand over next to our next speaker, Mrs. Diana Kopansky from UNEP, UN Environment Program, who is the coordinator of the Global Peatlands Initiative as an initiative, but also our key focal point and partner on the Global Peatlands Initiative project. She's an expert in climate change, landscapes, and biodiversity, has worked a long time in Africa, but also in Indonesia. So over 20 years in Africa on a range of issues within the emergency, humanitarian, and development fields. And previously with the Canadian government, and of course Canada also has a great deal of peatlands in the area. As the executive officer, she developed UN system-wide strategies and policies and enabled the inclusion of environment as a pillar in the UN development assistance frameworks. So now handing over to you, Diana, and trust that you can share your slides. Over.
Thanks very much. I wanted to send my regards to Vice Minister Alu, and good to see you, and as well, nice to meet you virtually, FAO Rep Dick. Happy to be here today, and let me just try to share my screen. Many of us kindly shared a response to the original invitation and need assessment. And so one of the questions was there, do you know the Peatlands Initiative? And I've been asked to respond to that. Let me just try to see, have you seen my sharing?
We see it very well, thank you, Diana.
Great, thanks so much. So my name is Diana Kopansky, and on behalf of UNEP, the United Nations Environment Program, I have the honor to lead and coordinate the Global Peatlands Initiative. It's an international partnership that is working to save peatlands as the largest terrestrial organic carbon stock. And UNEP uses a South-South collaborative approach for the implementation of the Global Peatlands Initiative project. It directly supports 4 key tropical peatlands countries: Indonesia, Peru, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the Republic of Congo. And for our work so far, the Global Peatlands Initiative has actually been recognized as a best practice approach for South-South and triangular collaboration across the entire UN system. And this has been based upon contributions from all of our partners, including our country government counterparts. And I wanted to share with you a little bit more about the leadership of the Indonesian government in this way. We know peatlands matter for the climate, And estimates suggest that while peatlands cover only 3% of global land surface area, they store over 500 billion tons of carbon. And that's as much carbon in all the terrestrial biomass, twice as much as in all the world's forests. Current greenhouse gas emissions from drained or damaged peatlands are estimated to be 5% of all emissions caused by human activity per year. And if the world has any hope of keeping the global average temperature increase below 2 degrees, then really urgent action must be taken to keep carbon locked in peatlands where it is, wet and in the ground. At the same time, already drained and degraded peatlands must be re-wet and restored to halt the significant emissions they release into the atmosphere. Indonesia has included peatlands action in their NDC and is leading the way. This is a photo of palm oil plantation on drained peatlands in Indonesia. Peatlands matter for the climate and for people. And in addition to the climate role they house rare and vital biodiversity. They also contribute to water regime quality and regulation and provide a multitude of other ecosystem services that support livelihoods and well-being. Here's a photo of nomadic herders on Mongolian peatlands. They're facing a near 60% of loss of peatlands in their country. And we know peatlands matter for the planet. More than 180 countries have peatlands, but we're only just starting to understand their role in both water cycling and climate change and our efforts to curb it. You may have heard the news in 2017, an international team of scientists mapped the world's largest tropical peatland in the Cuvette Centrale of the Congo Basin. Estimates say that it contains more than 32 gigatons of carbon, and that's as much carbon as the US state's economy emits in 15 years. Here's an aerial photo, a rare one, of the Congo Basin Cuvette Centrale peatlands, courtesy of Roberta Bondor, a Canadian astronaut that got it from NASA. The Global Peatlands Initiative was launched at the end of 2016 at the UNFCCC COP in Morocco. It was launched after the crisis of the Indonesian peat fires. It started as a partnership of 13 founding members, and in less than 4 years, we've grown to 40 international partner organizations directly supporting the 4 major tropical peatlands countries, as well as all countries of the world, but focusing on Indonesia, Republic of Congo, DRC, and Peru. Our diversity of the partnership is an asset, both in the partners' peatland experience and for the regions that they work in and they come from. And so successful emissions reductions on a global scale requires global action on peatlands. It's got to be built on experience and approaches, from science to policy and innovation to financing. And we're learning a lot from Indonesia and the goals, the regulations, and the approaches that they're being put into place. We really do need to know this information and understand what is best practice in order to deliver quick and significant wins for climate action on the ground through peatlands management. And the Global Peatlands Initiative is committed to keeping peat carbon in the ground. It's the only way that if we do business unusual, we're going to actually meet our carbon emissions net zero target by 2050. It's just a date around the corner. So the GPI has identified 4 priority work areas. Each partner is working in their areas of strength to know where peatlands are and how they're changing, to identify productive uses and drainage-free livelihoods. We're here to discuss more of this and to understand how to protect them and move peatlands towards their sustainable management. We're also working with countries to develop and put in place policies, laws, as well as institutions and institutional frameworks like the International Tropical Peatlands Centre that works to help countries understand the uniqueness of peatlands and also understand the need for urgent action to avoid developmental threats. We're also working together to find financial solutions and instruments to develop ways that both private and public sectors can work together. Here's the Global Peatlands Initiative project results chain. And I wanted to just zoom in that a lot of the work that we've been doing, a lot of the achievements that we've managed to get to are related to Output 1. This is the global work. We're here today to introduce the work of Output 2, as well as to further deepen our support to Indonesia, specifically through FAO, who leads this output. The project aims to contribute to climate change mitigation adaptation by increasing the long-term sustainability of peatlands. And honestly, it's such a vital piece of the work. We're really excited to bring this back, even though we're all challenged by COVID. Amazing how we can be together here, so many of us. I want to highlight specifically Indonesia's role in the Global Peatlands Initiative and their absolute championing of South-South collaboration. The GPI came to life through a series of discussions, with Indonesia leading those discussions with partners like UNEP and FAO, Wetlands International, Ramsar, Global Environment Centre, so many of the partners that are out there. And after a first partners meeting hosted by FAO, an international community of 13 founding partners came together to launch the GPI at Marrakesh. In 2017, Indonesia co-hosted the second meeting of the partners of the Global Peatlands Initiative. They led a dynamic and impactful series of workshops and field visits, and the meeting successfully brought together the Indonesian government, the tropical peatlands countries, both global and national experts, and dynamic group of passionate key stakeholders, including youth, that really have committed to working together. And the second meeting culminated with a dedicated Global Landscapes Forum pulled together by C4 as well as the Indonesian government and partners, and that was called Peatlands Matter. Many of you might have been there. We were over 500 people there. There's a lot of resources that are available through that exchange, including videos, and I really encourage you to go back and see where we've come from. The event drew on experiences from Indonesia, but also globally. And most importantly, it put the level of ambition of the Global Peatlands Initiative and the Indonesian government commitment and leadership on the map. And it really set a high level, a high target for other countries and all of our partners to live up to, really. And so when we came to the DRC and the Republic of Congo, who hosted the third partners meeting, the Indonesian Minister of Environment and Forestry attended with a delegation of 12 high-level government officials. And Her Excellency kindly shared Indonesia's experience and efforts to cope with climate change by managing peatlands. And she also appealed to the international community, but also to both the Congolese ministers and the Republic of Congo Prime Minister, and employed them to learn from your experience and challenges with peatland fires, peatland drainage and degradation, and also learn from the mechanisms that you put in place. This is definitely an untapped potential, as Pakolu mentioned. Livelihood support, resilience, climate change, biodiversity. Now we're talking about nature-based solutions. Peatlands health is central to that. And if we can do it on the 3% and a small portion of that's degraded, we can really make a huge impact. So during that meeting, those three ministers came together and signed the declaration, the Brazzaville Declaration on Peatlands. It's a commitment by Indonesia, DRC, and Republic of Congo to work together with the support of UNEP and the Global Peatlands Initiative partners to really protect the Congo Basin peatlands from unregulated land use and prevent its degradation and drainage. The declaration was underpinned from incredible science available from our partners. And you can see here Smoke on Water, which we translated into French. We'll share that link with you afterwards so you can learn more. And in September 2019, at the Secretary General's Climate Summit in New York, we had a dynamic and strong showing from Indonesia, raising the voice again, together with Germany, UNEP, FAO, to highlight the importance of peatlands as a nature-based solution in a series of discussions, which is building a strong climate response and commitment by all countries. As a further step to implement the Brazzaville Declaration and support the GPI, a high-level South-South exchange was organized together with the Indonesian government, ministers from Indonesia and the Republic of Congo, and representatives from the Democratic Republic of Congo took part in a dynamic and packed working week to deepen and share the experience, knowledge, and understanding, and also to really look at how Indonesia has also activated communities, engaged and trained local level individuals to be firefighters, also for firefighting, but also peatlands fire prevention. This was done with the full support of C4, UNEP, also GPI experts from around the world. And as a culmination of that working week, we established the International Tropical Peatlands Centre. It was a joint declaration by Indonesia, the DRC, and Republic of Congo with support from the GPI partners. And the ministers of the Republic of Congo and Indonesia took their partnership one step further and signed a memorandum of understanding on peatlands knowledge and experience sharing to solidify this further commitment to work with the GPI, also through the International Tropical Peatlands Centre, and all the key partners. C4 hosts the Tropical Peatlands Centre, and really it's such an important, a groundbreaking first institution that's been set up as a hub for interdisciplinary tropical peatlands research, for outreach, for technology transfer, and also as a knowledge hub, supporting policymakers, but practitioners also around the world, across regions, within nations, and also between international partners. In order to, hi, Elizabeth.
Yeah, so many things, Diana, if you can start off wrapping up in 1 minute.
Thanks so much. I'll take you through to our South-South collaboration in action. As I mentioned, the Global Peatlands Initiative was named as a best practice. We both were acknowledged within UNEP, but also UN system-wide. So really, people should be looking towards us, and we should be celebrating the way that we've been working together. At the COP, we highlighted the importance of peatlands. Indonesia even dedicated an entire day. We worked together with 10 events to highlight the importance of peatlands, and bringing on board countries like Mongolia, Scotland, Chile, Costa Rica, France, and also diverse actors working in the Arctic and with indigenous peoples to bring on board a joint voice for peatlands health. And here we are celebrating with the lead negotiators, which were Indonesians. The Indonesian team negotiated that resolution, a United Nations Environment Assembly resolution on the conservation and sustainable management of peatlands. And all countries of the world signed that in March 2019, giving a greater emphasis and bringing a commitment to all countries to look at the sustainable management of peatlands. Here we are as well, despite COVID, Indonesia continues to play the leadership role in South-South knowledge exchange. We've been together during Global Landscapes Forums talking about the importance of healthy peatlands for food security, and Vice Minister exchanged as well with the Vice Minister from Peru, also exchanged with the Republic of Congo Minister, and the now same Minister of Environment from Peru, Gabriela Costa, on how different they are approaching, these countries are approaching the challenge of peatlands degradation. And we really appreciated Vice Minister Pakalu's commitment to building back better, and building back differently, I think, is also quite important in that message. So we've got a slew of points. What's been exciting this year is that despite the challenges of COVID, FAO adapted and dynamically has been hosting webinars to launch this Output 2 part of our partnership. We've had 5 successful and dynamic webinars with Peru, 2 with the Democratic Republic of Congo, now launching these in Indonesia, and shortly to launch in the Republic of Congo. We're happy to share that in April, Chile presented its update on the NDC inspired by Indonesia, We also had a series of 3 webinars with the Canadian peatlands towards our Global Peatlands assessment. Next year will be critical for this next year will be critical for the partnership as we establish the Global Peatlands assessment, putting the state of the world's global peatlands on the map together with Greifswald and other partners. We've got the opportunity of the UN Decade on Ecosystems Restoration, and we have the upcoming 4th Partners Meeting in Peru. And finally, at the end of the year, we have the Peatlands Pavilion at the UNFCCC COP, which has been proposed by Scotland, IUCN in Chile, and other partners. We're really looking for government support to that concept of a pavilion, because really working together, we're all a part of the solution. Please do join us in any way that you can, sharing your knowledge, supporting the work financially, technically, and also raising your voice in your communities and with your people to show why peatlands matter. Thanks so much.
Many thanks, Diana, for these inspiring words. It's really linking the different countries, and UNEP is doing great job with that, and we're happy to collaborate on this ambitious and great project, which has already has allowed many friendships to form and a lot of good collaboration ongoing between countries. Just a reminder that also results of this first webinar and the second one, we will try to put a summary of the state of the knowledge on the current sustainable practices in Indonesia, wet practices, and those case studies, and share those at the next Global Peatlands Initiative's members meeting. At the moment, we won't have time to take many clarifying questions from Diana, but I point out to the question and answers pod, which is here below in the lower bar. You can see and write there any questions for Diana for our question and answers section part, which is coming up. And without further ado, I would like to hand over to Elizabeth for just a quick wrapping up why we are here today. You have also the concept note or the terms of reference available as participants, but this is just to focus our discussion today. Over to you, Elizabeth, who is working in our team here at FAO. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Maria and Diana, for the great presentation. So just very briefly, I'll go through the objectives and expectations on the agenda for today. And afterwards, I will very briefly present the preliminary results of the needs assessment. So I hope you can see my screen. And as already mentioned by our speakers, the objectives of this work stream on livelihoods under the Global Peatland Initiative is to clarify what are the key factors to plan, implement, monitor successful wet management for livelihoods in peatlands, as well as to showcase the successful wet and sustainable management approaches for livelihoods and support the integration of peatlands into the key policy framework together with our partners under the GPI and advance in assessing the stakeholder needs in the field of peatlands. And at the end, we also want to start collecting case studies, more case studies on wet peatland management for livelihoods. And the questions to answer today, as already mentioned by Pak-Dik, many thanks, are number one, what examples exist for successful sustainable value chain finance and policy development for improving peatland management? And number two, what landscape level approaches exist that help maintain these peatlands wet and ensure communities' livelihoods? We have a really packed but really interesting agenda for today. You have seen Richard Trencher already giving the opening, followed by Bapak Aluedohong and Diana giving the background under the Global Peatland Initiative. And after this presentation by myself, we'll have a very brief Q&A session, 5 minutes. And then we'll have a presentation by Marinos on potential commodities and capacity development approaches. Then we will have a case study on Yam Plung for bioenergy and peat restoration with communities by Ibu Siti Maimuna, and followed by a presentation on policy development and instruments for improving peatland management which I believe Pak Askari will be presenting on behalf of Ibu Ati Budi Susanti. And at the end, no worries, we will have time for a panel discussion and a longer question and answer session to answer to the question, what are these key factors to plan and implement the successful wet management approaches for livelihoods in Indonesian peatlands? And at the end, we have the honor to have some conclusions by Ibu Sonia Dewi from ICREF and Adam Garan from FAO will be closing the session and reminding for some feedback. So these are our speakers today and our participants today. Thanks so much. We count with a great number of participants. I can see right now 158, which is great. Half of it are somewhat familiar on the Global Peatland Initiative, and about half of the participants are female. So we have a really balanced gender on today's session. And participants have shared many expectations. We may not be able to cover all of them in this session, but we'll continue with a second session towards February, and we'll continue the work stream. So they have mentioned the livelihood options, policies, future initiative, restoration, progress to dates, as well as peatland monitoring, and wet livelihoods and fires, some food security, lessons learned and best practices, and many others. So thanks a lot to all for registering. And if you let me now, I'll stop sharing for a second and we'll go very fast through the preliminary needs assessment. Okay, so I'll start sharing again my screen. Okay, so I hope you can see the preliminary assessment of the needs and gaps and knowledge about peatlands. We'll go a bit through the background and respondents in Indonesia, and then we'll have some information about knowledge on peatlands, as well as topics and needs, challenges and solutions, and what is the type of support needed, and finalize with the good practices case study template. So just as a background, this needs assessment survey was distributed under the Global Peatlands Initiative since May 2020 in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and French, and it's a joint effort with our GPI partners. And we are collecting still information. So have your say, you're still in time to answer the survey. So far, we have had nearly 300 respondents. The overall objective is to understand the institutional and knowledge needs identified by the respondents to help us advance with improving peatlands management. We have so far 45 respondents working on peatlands in Indonesia, about half working under research and academia, and lower participation so far from the public sector and private sector. And about 30% of the respondents are female. And they are working, the respondents are working on sustainable management practices and development of livelihoods, which is the topic of today's session, as well as on matters related to peatland restoration, and among others. And over 20 of the Indonesian participants who responded the survey this far work on the promotion of local and indigenous knowledge and practices on the preservation of peat. The participants have estimated that the level of knowledge on peatlands tends to be quite high among the individual and organizational level, but it is lower on the general public level. So people are not as familiar, or that's how the respondents have perceived the level of knowledge. And they have identified that the most important topic for the general public in Indonesia to know about peatlands would be number 1, the sustainable management practices. But overall, they have ranked very high also the action for reducing greenhouse emissions, as well as peatland restoration, biodiversity and conservation, as well as the disaster of risk reduction of disasters related to climate change, and the development of livelihoods. It's also been ranked pretty high from 1 to 10, 7.3. And other important topics that they have ranked related to ecosystem services and its economic valuation, the land use and land use change monitoring and reporting, peatland monitoring, and others. Likewise, they have rated the need for tools, sources of knowledge or information on methods to professionals working on the field of peatlands. They have ranked actually sustainable management practices and development of livelihood together with peatland restoration among the top 3, needing more tools and knowledge. And the participants who responded this survey so far, 43, have identified some peatland related challenges. And we can see that today's topic, the lack of knowledge about sustainable livelihood options, was mentioned as a challenge by many of the participants. And other challenges often mentioned were related to lack of multisectoral, coordinated research, or the difficulties with integrating peatlands into the existing policies. The respondents have as well done some suggestions what could help solving these important challenges. So they have mentioned technical approaches, such as the development of sustainable peatland practices, rewetting and wet uses, and integrated landscape management, particularly on water management. They have also mentioned factors related to enabling environment, such as the intersectoral coordination between stakeholders, harmonized legislation, as well as empowering and engaging with the communities, among others. And finally, they have suggested some knowledge related to knowledge and data, following the principles of transparency and accountability, have mentioned about the networking and collaboration, as well as the knowledge sharing and transfer, and peatland mapping was also mentioned. Finally, the type of support needed that participants have identified relate to livelihoods and products from wet peatlands, such as the support to the transition towards zero burn and zero drain peatland uses, and economically competitive alternative crops, as well as research and development of the livelihoods, including the long-term trials on peatland wet agriculture and silviculture. And they have also mentioned support related to monitoring of the impacts of the actions on communities and peatlands, long-term funding, as well as policies, including policy dialogues with all stakeholders and evidence-based policy development. The participants also suggested that more support is needed on better and more accessible official data, support on harnessing innovation, and also, of course, knowledge sharing and capacity development. And the most useful activities would be towards sharing of publication, knowledge resources, as well as workshops and trainings, as we are here today in today's workshop. So all in all, the key message is the survey is still open. These were very preliminary results to encourage all of you to answer the survey so we can better suit the needs of the countries related to peatlands. And so far, the participants have highlighted the need for support towards the transition to zero burn, zero drain peatland uses, as well as the coordination between all stakeholders, including at policy level, and the integrated landscape management and engagement with communities. And I'll hand over now to Maria for the presentation on the good practice cases and the template. Many thanks.
Many thanks, Elizabeth. Very inspiring results, as already we've seen in the chat that people have shown interest to the data and the results that you have shared, Elizabeth. If you can all still carry on sharing the screen, Elizabeth, with the slides, there is just a couple of slides there. So we have a open call for good practice cases. As you may recall, now if we go to the next slide, Maybe I can even request a remote control. So we've been collecting these good cases between also 2004, 2000 and let me see, 2014, 2016, a couple of years ago. We collected approximately 18 cases. A lot of them were from Indonesia. Here's one example of it from sago farming on largely undrained peatlands. And these were all contributions from you practitioners, different kinds of expertise, and they are available all online. We'll share the link also for downloading them as they are now. But what we are looking now especially is those like true practices, wet practices on wet peatland landscapes. And these are for identifying and sharing, developing further and understanding better wet livelihood options. What do they require? And of course, from these cases that we did in the past years, now we've developed this new template, which is a kind of little bit more specific knowledge as knowledge has advanced also on what kind of practices can better help to develop sustainable value chains, what kind of practices can mitigate climate change. Has somebody measured the impacts on the greenhouse gases or the subsidence of the cases? So this is a bit more detail that we are requesting now. None of this is obligatory, so we just request information on the case. So that's kind of my main message now, is to encourage you to go through the practice template, see if you have some cases that you would like to share, and fill in the summary, the first couple of pages, and send it over to us so we can evaluate with our peer review little Global Peatlands Initiative partner peer review group, where we are estimating, okay, this practice could be very useful for also for others. So you can select only those fields where you have data for. And we'll share right after this seminar the template. There's also in French and Spanish if you would like to reach more different audiences in different languages. And if you, Elizabeth, still swap one more slide, where we see already kind of the summary page of the templates. It's currently in Word, and of course the final case studies that we will publish together with our project partners will be layout with a nice photos, a bit more description, and also more information about the whole chain from planning to the monitoring of the practice case, if that data is available. I think I could stop here. Terima kasih. Thank you everybody for the attention. I see a lot of questions have been now submitted, and I promise to facilitate the discussion. So let's put it in the gallery mode, and we can see all the panelists here online. I hope also that I would encourage colleagues from the ministry to participate and just raise your hand or indicate you would like to answer a question. You can do that also in the question and answers pod. I see very active discussion already going in the chat, and a lot of people have then submitted the same questions to the question and answers. So we are looking now at the question and answers pod, and there is the most voted questions is a complex one from UT Aria. I may not see the whole name, who is very interested in Pakalue's remark on having an open platform where for sharing data and to collaborate. Of course, there are some of these already available, some in Bahasa, Indonesia. We have our D groups exchange group for 1,200 participants. And but I would like to still now I see new questions are voted there, but I will focus on this one for new areas. You'll see it in the open questions. That there are different cases already and efforts ongoing. How about there are questions about wondering about the monitoring and evaluation of these cases. Is it available, the data? And then also questions about what happened to peat care villages. That's the efforts from through the Peatland Restoration Agency, BRG. We have also colleagues here online today, the Paludiculture projects and other projects. Maybe we could, this is such a broad question actually. If somebody would like to respond this question directly, you can type the answer. I would invite all colleagues who have been working on different projects in the past years. In particular, the question is about evaluation. Is there an evaluation platform? How about creation of peatland products? So many questions there, but let's focus first on the evaluation of the different cases, of different efforts and efforts to do wet management. Would anybody of the panelists would like to answer this question? You can just raise your hand and I will check the screen. I see no raised hands. This is a complex question. If somebody from the ministry side would like to respond, that would be very much welcome. Before
Yes,
we have,
Maria.
all right, over to you. Thank you, Pak Askari.
Okay, thank you for the questions. So basically that for the monitoring of the successful of the restoration of a peatland hydrological function, so we already installed the monitoring station, particularly for the company area, which is now we have installed more than 10,000 monitoring points. And also that we use the CEPAL platform, which is developed by the FAO, to see whether the changes of the soil moisture, to monitor whether the area is more wetter or not. And also for the vegetation change, we can use the CEPAL platform. That's what we have done through years in order to monitor whether our hydrological function restoration is running or not, and also that the rehabilitation of vegetation is running or not. So that's the way we do the monitoring. Thank you.
Many thanks, Pak Askari. Terima kasih. I hope this was helpful to Yuti Ariani on the response on that very much voted question. I'm sure that many field projects also monitor manually the groundwater level, also in a kind of a local level scale. Then I have another question here about, this was already in the beginning, about the valuation of peatlands that Diana Kopansky was indicating that she could answer.
Maria?
Yes, over to you. Oh, okay, apologies. Over to you, Babak.
Yeah, I just I need to answer one question from Agung Setiawan, I think. His question is, as we know that Joko Widodo government has a program food estate in peatland area, right? So I need to explain about this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we hear you well. Over to you, Babak.
All right, thank you. You know, as you know, that food estate in Central Kalimantan is intended located within X Mega Rice project, and we have to understand that not all 1.4 X Mega Rice project consists of peat. Nearly 45 up to 50% of that area actually consists as a mineral and peaty soil. That we have to understand that. The second issue is not whole of the X Mega Rice project as a pristine or secondary forest has been converted earlier, but as you know, nearly 20,000 already just left abandoned and fire happened sometime. That we have to understand. So this not we convert new primary or secondary peat swamp forest, right? Thirdly, I need to stress here, if we talk about food estate, not solely we talk about rice. Yeah, in Indonesian law about food, we consider food as a agriculture, plantation, forestry, fishery, and so on. right? Including all this kind of livestock, or what we call it, livestock cultivation and so on. So the food estate is not, we try to grow rice only in the mineral and peat soil. That is around 168,000 hectares. We're gonna do also in relation with the food estate to do a restoration of the deep peatland by putting all this kind of, we call it rewetting infrastructure, like canal blocking, like canal backfilling, including revegetation program, in order to, to restore all this degraded peatland in the peat. And why is this restoration related with food estate? Yes. If the hydrological, recover, and we can create, like a natural fish pond on that, we can increase the production of fish, for example. That's food estate. That's food, because we can harvest later on fish from these blocks areas, for example, blockage areas. That's I need to explain this. And we also can develop like ecotourism that's related with food. So I need to raise this issue because I mean, there are a couple of misleading as if that government only want to grow rice on that areas. Yeah. The fourth things that I need to remind us that this ex-mega rice project, put estate in the mega rice project, we know start from zero. We have master plan developed by scientists, by experts from Netherlands in collaboration with Central Planning Bureau as well as Central Kalimantan Province. We use that data. We adopt that. In this master plan, for example, they develop this ex-mega rice project into 4 zones. Yeah, they call it cultivation zone, limited cultivation zone, because these two kind of zone or the almost 670 up to 700,000 hectares. Conservation zone and coastal zone. So we try to use that information too in order to develop all this kind of food estate in appropriate way, in the right direction. And also maybe 100,000 of research has been implemented in that areas. All this kind of information we collected, we compile and so on. So again, don't just narrow our sight or our perspective only things that the current government program on food estate just only try to grow rice and peat. No, not at all. Yeah, that's actually my explanation. Thank you.
Many thanks. That very valuable points and important points, Babak Alwedong. Thank you so much. This is a much raised questions already and discussion before, and it was important to address these points. And people are surely happy to share more information also afterwards. I think next we had a couple of minutes for those questions. I see new questions coming. We will have luckily more time for discussion also after the following technical presentations from first from Pag Marinus Christiadi from Fordia. I would like to invite you, Pag, to share your screen. And in the meantime, I will just briefly introduce you to their audience. So we were honored to have Fordia's presentation. Pag Marinus is a researcher with expertise on agroforestry, working at the Forestry and Environmental Research Development and Innovation Agency of Indonesia. He has graduated from the Gadjah Mada University in Jogja and postgraduated from the IPB University in Bogor. Apologies for pronunciation there, and thank you so much for being here, Pag Marinus. I would like to hand over to you for your presentation. Feel free to share your screen for the presentation.
Thank you, Maria, for this opportunities. Sorry, I will turn off my camera because internet signal here is not good.
Perfect. We see your slides very well. Over to you. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On this opportunities, I will present matter with the title Case Studies of Economic Potential of Palidoculture, Potential Commodities and Capacity Development Approaches by Marnus Krisadi Arun, Triwira Yuwati, Abdurrahman, Asef Kurniawan, Hadi Solarifin, Ika Intan Malaputi, and Saiful Anwar. Development strategy of palidoculture consists of first is land management. It consists of zero burning and zero waste, and then minimum tillage with organic and mineral dressing, also based on with hydrological unit. And then adaptive management consists of forest and land fire early warning system, and then organic matter management and land management and set species matching. The next is farmer management, consists of integrated farming and LESA model, low external input system agriculture. For the business management is priority product and creative economy. For the example, we already process a purun and perupuk as a eco straw. I collaborated with BUMDes in Tumbang Nusa village. This is a purun straw, and this a perupuk from stem perupuk straw. And then we're planning to process purun for pulp. And then we already produce like LFT. And then we promote the local food from Peatland. One of them is tubers from purun tikus, local name, atau Eucalyptus dulcis. And then we promote some mushroom from Peatland swamp floor. And also we promote potential food from wetland from seed lotus, make traditional cake called talipuk, cookies talipuk. We also already some ropes made from natural fibers. One of them is raso, pandanus leaf. We produce ropes and then sent to Jogja and Tasikmalaya for several handicraft, chair and some basket. And also we can reduce use tire combined with the ropes, become the beautiful chair and sofa. And then we already processing pineapple leaves into natural fibers with simple machine, and then can make some goods. We also promote the water hygiene as a water weed that is a very fast-growing weed. For its control can be used as a raw material for biogas with a 3-meter digester filled with a kilogram of water hygiene per day or 15 kilogram per week. We can replace 0.5 kilogram of LPG per day. We also promote floating agriculture with material from made of daffodils. We make a sunken bed like this from daffodils to make floating agriculture. And then canal fish farming with the local fish. And also we promote the albumin from local fish. And then we can make organic plate from lotus and areca.
Oh gitulah, saya lagi di sini gimana ini?
And then we processing offline organic material into economic value goods like scrap. We can make economic good like compost block. And then we also processing offline organic material into fish feed pellets. And then we also processing offline organic material into bioenergy wood pellets. The conclusion, creative economic development on peatland based on paludiculture can be done by involving BUMDES or a village business entity with the green circular economy concept. That's all for from me. Thank you. Back to Maria. Thank you.
Many thanks, Pag Marinus. We saw a lot of different options for livelihood means, and this was, of course, an introduction of what type of products can be developed, and then the value chain and the economic model can be discussed in the following sessions. I would now just quickly, before we hand over to Ibu Siti Maimuna, would like to open the floor for any particular questions to Pag Marinus. If any clarifying questions would be there, would be great to see. I think you might need some time to digest and think about the questions. I see new questions also coming on from I see Pag Nioman. Pag Nioman, you might have a question directly to Pag Marinus. I'm following the question and answers. If it's coming soon, we can directly take it now. Let me see if somebody has raised hand. Okay. Also, I see Pangbang Arifati. Would you like to ask a question? Or oh, I can't hear you, Pak Bangbang. Well, maybe we just need to move forward for the questions and for the presentation, and then take clarifying questions right after Ibu Siti Maimuna's presentation. One moment, while you're preparing to share your presentation, Ibu, I'm just going to introduce you as a speaker. Ibu is a lecturer at Instiber Yogyakarta with silviculture, with a focus on silviculture, and the champion of Asia Pacific Forest 2019, given by FAO in South Korea. She's an expert on forest conservation, community approaches for Indonesian companies, and Indonesian Pioneer Woman of Reforestation Award from the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. Also, other awards have been given to Ibu, and she has her master's is from the Institute Yogyakarta and postgraduated from Gadjah Mada University, as well as Leiden University as a candidate currently. I hand over to you without further ado. We're hearing from bioenergy use from Nyamplung. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maria, for to me. Thank you for the opportunity for me. My name is Timai Muna for Palangkaraya, from Palangkaraya, and I'm sorry I must to stop my video because I'm in weak signal. Good afternoon to my Vice Minister Pak Aludohong and all participants in this forum. Our activity was initiated in 2016 with C4 and eventually become widespread with NIFOS, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, and UNEP until 2019. Let me present my exposure entitled Nyamplung for bioenergy and peat restoration based on community. In these activities, we are supported by UNEP. This is Nyamplung. I'm sorry.
We see the tree now. All right, now is the slide number 4.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Number 4. This is my case activities about Nyamplung, peat restoration, energy security, socio-economic improvement of community with Nyamplung. Nyamplung is an alternative bioenergy crop and can be used as land restoration, including peatland. Nyamplung is a multi-purpose tree species. We can put some benefit from flower, fruit, leaves, timber, and all product. And I think all of the part of these trees have great benefit, like honey, tamanu oil, bioenergy, construction, like meranti timber, and the tree is adaptable for extreme floody area like peatland. We have a preliminary research to test bioenergy plant species with C4 for many species for potential trees to bioenergy like Gamal, Kaliandra, Kemirisunan, and Nyamplung. The result of our research is Nyamplung is the best or the most adaptable species in peatland degraded peatland by monoculture and agroforestry. Further study is needed to assess their production, and in 2017 funded by C4, NIFOS, and Ministry of Environment and Forestry, carrying out the bioenergy plot on degraded peatland in Palangkaraya. And 2018 funded by UNEP carry out 50-hectare planting for peat restoration program in Mangkatip District, Barito Regency, Central Kalimantan. How about the peat restoration? The existence of war peatland play an important role in storage many than 30% of terrestrial carbon and hydrological cycle. Peat is similarly with flammable, especially there that have been degraded, and peat fragile, acid, and biodiversity, water storage, and carbon storage. Effort to restore the degraded peatland with crop that have economic value to community in addition to ecological recovery. Energy security. About energy security, Indonesia energy demand has increased significantly, mainly due to population growth, urbanization, and economic development. It is necessary to use renewable energy while restoring the degraded peatland with bioenergy crop with local species. Socio-economic improvement of community. Peat swamp management and protection activities are inseparable from the participant of communities around the forest. Need concept and method of empowerment of local communities oriented toward peatland conservation and environmental sustainable. Development of the non-timber forest production types for bioenergy intercropping and with other production activities such as the honeybees. The activities with UNEP, we make two main activities. They are making canal blocking in the village in Mangkatip district. And we have planned the nyamplung trees in 50 hectares in this area too. This is the field condition in the Mangkatip district in East Barito, Central Kalimantan. And this is the socio-economy activity of the community. The community in Mangkatip have economical activities by sell the kratom teas. The kratom is the species I think the endemic in the Mangkatip too. They depend on this product, but this is forbidden to be traded. Because it is suspected to contain the narcotic. So they must to switch their livelihood with other product. Nyamplung can be an alternative option because it is easy to do, and there is already a market like Japan. Japan have the high demand for nyamplung for make tamanu oil. This is our activity with UNOPS in last year, survey in to planting and canal blocking area. There is the mega rice project, and we make some improvement for it for bioenergy and with community. This is a canal blocking established in the area. And this is the planting activities with kelotok. We the local name the transportation with kelotok in the peatland. And this is a monitoring with UNOPS and further activities opportunities support to the continue to managing the peat area, mentoring and transfer the science, skill, and technology to care for the and process the fruit into the tamanu oil, provide real economical benefit to community and establish a system to connect with a private sector, research institute, and market. This is our publication with C4, and the last is from UNEP about peat restoration based on bioenergy with community in Mangkatip. The conclusion is nyamplung is one solution to protect peatland with a variety of productive economic activities with community. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ibu Siti, for such a great presentation. So we have seen from Pak Marinus from Fordy a number of potential commodities for wet or rewetted peatlands in line with the principles of zero burning and zero draining. And we have seen also from Ibu Siti the potential from nyamplung, more specifically for bioenergy and the restoration of degraded peatlands. Also a great solution to engage with the local communities. So I will hand over if we have some direct questions now to the presentation from Ibu Siti that the participants would like to ask before we move to our last presentation. And please remember, we'll have a longer session for questions and answer also afterwards. So in case somebody have a direct question for Ibu Siti and want to raise the question, or type it in the chat pod. I see Maria. Go ahead, of course.
Yeah, there's a couple of times the same question about the economic analysis about the different products for livelihoods. I would like to ask first from Ibu Siti, and then I'll hand over to Pak Marinus about could you share any information if you or somebody else has studied the products that you have presented, and share some results of the economic analysis or some articles that you would have on the topic. You can also share them through the chat. Over to you, Ibu Siti.
Okay, from our research with C4, we have some analysis about the economical activities, but the nyamplung is in Mangkatip, maybe the community choice the nyamplung because we have enough time for analyze nyamplung in Mangkatip, but the similarly research about economical analysis is have done with C4 and our team in Buntoy village. In Buntoy village, the community is no interest, not interest for nyamplung because in Buntoy is have many activities in the peatland with other activities to raising the economical of the community. But in the Mangkatip, we still to analyze in the area. But for the preliminary analysis about the economical in Mangkatip, the community is welcome for the nyamplung planting because they are very interested for to change from the kratom to other product for the economical I think the livelihood of a community. Maria.
Many thanks for the excellent reply. Yeah, Elizabeth carries on after these responses, but I would like to ask same question from Pak Marinus as well. We heard about interesting results already available from Buntoy village and Mangati village coming up. How about from your cases, Pagmarinus? Over to you.
Okay, some question to me. One of the question from Pak Nyoman. Question is how hygienic is it straw using purun? I think it's hygienic enough because we use a two way to hygienic. One by boil the straw with sorry in English serai. Sorry, I can mention in English serai, and then we use UV for final sterilization. And then from Pak Ahmad, how about the analysis, financial analysis? Financial analysis is already done, but not yet publication because that is our part, my part of my thesis. And then from Nistia, how does the support of local government or ministry promoting this product? This product produced collaborated with BUMDes and Forest Management Unit Gerbang Barito. So it's a good support from government and ministry. That's all for me, the question. Yes, 3 questions. Thank you for your attention. That's all for me. Back to Maria.
Many thanks for the replies. And I think, Elizabeth, over to you to facilitate the next, if you will want to take further questions.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Maria, and thanks, Pagmarinus and Ibu Siti for these really good answers to these questions. So, mindful of the time, I cannot see any hands raised for any urgent questions. So I think because we will have the longer sessions and questions and answer, if I may just now give the floor to our next and last speaker, Pak Askari. He will be presenting on behalf of Ibu Ati from the Ministry of Forestry and Environment, and particularly Ibu Ati is the director of the Peatland Degradation Control, and I believe Pak Askari will present on her behalf, and we look forward to your presentation. And I can see you are already sharing your screen. Many thanks, Pak Askari. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth, for time. Bapak Ibu sekalian, ladies and gentlemen, puan-puan and tuan-tuan, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And have a very good morning and good afternoon. Before I go through to the presentation, I would like to introduce myself. My name Askari, Muhammad Askari, which is the staff of Ibu Ati. My job title is Deputy Director for Preservation of Peatland Ecosystem in Directorate of Peat Degradation Control, Ministry of Environment and Forestry. Okay. My presentation that will be in the 4 parts, but depend on the time is given because it's quite long slides, but I will try to run as quick as possible since the time for the discussion will be fruitful for all of us. The first part would be the challenges, second part is national policy, and the third part is the achievement, what we have done, and also the instruments. In the 4 parts was a contribution of our works to the measurement of the CO2 emission reduction from the peatland. Okay, I will try to use the first slide on the challenges. Okay, I think many of you already aware that the main problem of the peatland ecosystem is the drainage, the existence of the drainage. since the dryness exists there, so it's dry the pit, and if the pit is dried, so it will create the subsidence, and also it will be easily to be burned, which create the forest fire, which is emit the greenhouse gas emission. And also if the subsidence, if the pit fires occur for more than 2 times, it almost impossible it will recover. I mean, because it will be burned out, the peatland itself. So it developed the depression and flooding. And that can be seen and everywhere around Indonesia. That's also in the concession area and also in the community area. So this is the basic concept how to restore the peatland ecosystem. The first one is how to bring back and preserve the water, because 90% of the peatland area is water, consists of water. Second one is how to bring back and preserve the vegetation, particularly the vegetation which is suitable for the peatland area. The third one, how to improve the local community livelihoods, because the fires come from the community. I mean, from the people, from human being, not from the natural fire. That's never occurred in Indonesia. And the fourth one is law and order, because if we cannot maintain all of those 3 approaches, so we should incorporate with the law and order approaches. For the national policies, basically that Indonesia has regarding the peatland protection and management is heavily regulated. At least in my list, 29 regulation has been stipulated, guidelines and also standard for the peatland protection and management. Include 2 acts, which is the Act of Protection and Management of Environment, and also act regarding the spatial planning. 4 government regulations, 4 presidential instruction, 1 presidential decree, 8 ministerial regulation, 3 ministerial decrees, 6 Director General of Peat Regulation Control regulations, and 1 Director General of Peat Regulation Control decree. So this is heavily regulated. If we look back to the milestone, so basically that the peat protection has been regulated since 1990 through the presidential decree, which is number 32 in 1990. Then until now that it has been at least, as I said, 29 regulation or guidelines. But at the time that we have not really realized about the importance of the peatland ecosystem itself. So that's why that some permit has been issued and some activities has been carried out in the peatland area, which is draining the peatland area. So basically, this is the milestone of the regulation itself. This is one of the latest regulation that just has been stipulated. We already stipulated the national long-term planning for protection and management of peatland ecosystem, which is will be in place from 2020 last year until 2049. So the long-term planning has been stipulated. That will include all kind of activity that should be carried out by different institutions, including the research institution, including the Ministry of Environment and Forestry itself, and also Ministry of Agriculture and several other institutions. They should follow these guidelines because that will be incorporated in the national planning, and also the guideline how to change. And all of the local government, both provincial and also the district, they should develop their local regulation, their local long-term planning for protection and management of peatland, but it will be based on this regulation. And also we have the status of peat ecosystem degradation, which is can be a basis for us to do the restoration or rehabilitation process. Some of the achievement and the instruments. So basically that we have several achievements that we have done so far. The first one is that we have inventorized until 2020 319 peatland hydrological units from 865 peatland hydrological units in our country. which is the inventory of peatland characteristics in the scale of 1 to 50,000, which is cover the area of at least 11.1 million hectares of the peatland area Indonesia, because we have 24.5 million hectares of peatland hydrological units, but not all of them are peat, but including the mineral soil, because the approach is in our regulation is the peatland hydrological unit, which is the ecosystem approaches. And we have also inventory of peatland characteristics using lidars for some areas, and we also determine the peat dome. Where is the peat dome area? So we already know so that for 319 peatland hydrological unit, that will be a peat dome in their area. This is some of the restored area. I mean, restoring of their hydrological function through the water management in the concession area, that we have restored at least 3.6 million hectares, which is from the pulpwood industrial plantation, also palm oil plantation. And this is just for information that we still ongoing how to decrease the number of the water flowing out from the peatland area, which is through the construction of the rewetting infrastructure, including by our colleague from other ministry, which is Ministry of Public Works and Housing, where they already constructed at least 156 canal blockings. So the canal is now blocked again using the reconstruction materials, including the pit itself, which is into 3 types. This is just showing you the distribution of the canal blockings that also in the mega rise project, 1 million hectares in Central Kalimantan. This is the canal blockings that has been constructed in the 2 years by Ministry of Public Works. You can see there, and this is another type which is using the coconut tree construction in order to reinforce the construction itself. And by this year, our unit, which is the DG of pollution, environmental pollution degradation control, that we have constructed 663 canal blockings in the 1 million hectares peatland in Central Kalimantan, which is, it will reweight at least 36 million hectares, 36,000 hectares of the peatland, still on the ongoing process. And this is myself where I went to the field for the canal blocking construction. And this is the distribution of the area that we put the canal blockings within 2020. And this is the example of the canal backfilling, which is carried out by our colleague from Ministry of Public Works. You can see to your Google Maps if there's the black dot like this one, so that's mean that has been constructed the canal backfilling. And for this year, for 2020, at least we have do the intervention on the 47 villages or desa, including 8 villages, which is carried out by our colleague from the social forestry, where we do some kind of rehabilitation of vegetation. We do the how to improve the community livelihood, also the construction of the canal blocking by the community itself. So we do this through field education to them, and then they will apply directly what has been taught to them, including the fisheries, floating fisheries. You can see here in Sangalang village, and also revegetation in Tanjung Sangalang, and also canal blocking in Penda Barania, and also some duck poultry. So there's some kind of activities which is for the community livelihood. This is some of the instrument that we have done. We already have. This is the near real-time monitoring for the hotspot, which is our colleague from other DGs, sipongi.menelka.go.id. This is from the BRG, the real-time monitoring for groundwater level. You can access because this is free for access. And we also have the SIMATAG. The SIMATAG is sorry, that's still in Bahasa. The SIMATAC is water monitoring level for the concession area. So this is a limited access because we want to monitor the successful or not successful of the restoration and water management, or also for the law enforcement. This is the number of the compliance point that has been installed to all of the companies in Indonesia. So more than 10,000 compliance point has been installed, and then can be reported on the online reporting system. This is one of the example of one of the company. I just take one of the company. So you can see here, the blue line means that the water level is less than 0.4 meter from the above the ground. So that's mean that this company is compliant to the law. This is thanks to the FAO for let us access to the CEPAL platform, so we can analyze using the satellite imagery on the vegetation change. This is just an example that we have carried out years before, so we can see here whether the negative change or positive change on the rehabilitation process that we have carried out. And also that we use also the CEPAL platform using the Sentinel data, Sentinel-1 data, also to analyze whether the area that has been put the canal blocking is wetter or not. So we can monitor on the bi-weekly basis on the changes of the soil moisture in the area. So this is a kind of tools also to see whether the rehabilitation of vegetation, also the restoration of the hydrological peatland hydrological function is success or not. So we can monitor to this system. This is also the system that we have. We have the media center where we can access or gather the information. This is my director, Ibu Ati, which is showing the SIMATAC. This is a system we already established. And then this is also the system, but still on the development, that all of the data will be integrated into one platform, which was so-called the CPEC. On the measurement of the CO2 emission reduction through our activities, that we claim that by year 2020 that we have reduced the emission of the CO2 from the peatland area at least 366 million ton CO2 equivalent, which is come from the concession area and also from the community area. That's my sharing. Thank you very much. I will hand over back to Elizabeth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Askari, as the Deputy Director of the Peatland Degradation Control Unit at the Ministry. Thank you so much for the presentation and showing the efforts in different parts of Indonesia to restore and also develop livelihoods. It was good to see also, now we covered the points about the monitoring efforts and approaches that are being developed as we move forward. We have now couple of minutes to ask any clarifying questions directly from Pak Askari, and we're looking with Elizabeth and our team, the questions coming through at the moment. There's always a little bit of time lag, but maybe we can go back to the question about monitoring. Well, there is a bit of a discussion also about non-native species being used. That's something maybe that we can discuss also afterwards through the D Groups platform. We're collecting all the questions and putting in them, sharing them also to the D Groups community. You will receive the link to join the community unless you're already there. And I see now the first question from one of the participants. For Pak Askari, your work in canal blocking and canal backfilling and the villages appear to, there will be a lot of efforts similarly to the BRG's peatland restoration agency's efforts. There is a question if you would be able to comment on this, or maybe you were presenting joint efforts. If it's possible for you to answer this question, Pak Askari, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Maria. So basically, that the BRG is the implementing agency from the policy that has been stipulated through the Minister of Environment and Forestry. So the BRG much more implement on the ground on the policy that has been taken. And the BRG, they have a working area into 6 provinces, which is in Riau Province, Jambi, and South Sumatra in Sumatra Island, and also in West Kalimantan, and also Central Kalimantan, and also South Kalimantan in Kalimantan, so 3 provinces in Kalimantan, and 1 is in Papua. Indonesia has 19 provinces which has the peatland area. So now that we try to separate our function, so that in the 7 provinces that will be intervention carried out by the BRG, but for the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, I mean my unit, that will be on the other 12 provinces. So that we work in Aceh, in Sumatra, North Sumatra, Sumatra Barat, something like that, in Lampung, in East Kalimantan. So that's just how to distinguish the working area. But the intervention is quite the same. But it is quite different with the year 2020, since the president asked our unit to do the economic recovery in the Central Kalimantan for the in order to alleviate the COVID pandemic. So we also this year working in the Central Kalimantan. As I mentioned before, we have carried out intervention on this 49 villages, including construction of 663 canal blockings. And we have put many rehabilitation vegetation there for 173 hectares area, including the petai, many local species that we have used, and also some of the activities such as the poultry, the fisheries, many other activities. So it's kind of say similar activities, but different areas. Thank you.
Very, very good. And thanks for that answer. It shows coordinated efforts. And of course, the Peatland Restoration Agency has now the mangroves under its mandate as a BRGM. I forgot to that in my question. I have one question for Pak Askari before we start the whole panel discussion with all the presenters. One question about the socio-economic monitoring, and that's of course a big challenge also for the collecting data. Often you cannot use remote sensing or the CEPAL platform or other approaches. Can you share some information about how the data on the community livelihoods, what is the plan, or what are the next steps for collecting the data on the socio-economic recovery and the kind of results for livelihoods on the communities? Over to you, Pak.
Okay, thank you. Very good question, Ibu Maria. It's not easy to answer. So basically, for the physical properties, it will be easily to monitor, such as the canal blockings and also the soil moisture, vegetation change. But for the economic changes, it's not easy because yes, we have done to some areas when we carry out the program or the project. So they are very happy with the implementation. But then it's not easy that they will maintain all of the setup, the established program that has been given. That's why in our program that we are not just deliver, say sending the money to the community, no, but we try to develop what so-called the bottom-up planning. So that all of the activities should be proposed by the local community. We also establish the institution, local institution, which so-called the TKPPG, Tim Kerja Working Team for the Restoration and Management of the Peatland. So this institution, they will propose, they will create a proposal. After creating the proposal, so that we bring this proposal to the planning institution in the local area, which is the Bapeda, Badan Perencana Pembangunan Daerah. And also sometimes we invite the Bupati and also the secretary of the local government to let the community present their proposals. Some of the proposals that say the money is come from our institution just to make a startup, but some of the proposals that maybe cannot be accommodated through the project that we have, because we have also a limited budget. So we ask the local government, you should take over the planning from the community, because it's a bottom-up planning. And some of the local government, they already incorporate that in their next year planning. So that's the approaches that we have. So that's we hope that by through these approaches, the continuity or sustainability of the activity that will be implemented smoothly. Some of the vice Bupati, Wakil Bupati, at the time that they take it directly, the program that we have. They said, okay, by next Thursday, please have a meeting on my office and we'll incorporate all of the program in our next year planning. But not all of the local government has taken the same action. That's a kind of challenge that we try to say how to make this one is sustained. Thank you, Maria.
Many thanks for describing the approach, how the projects are being selected and funded, and hopefully the data can be collected then also from the local level to follow up what kind of livelihood support these kind of different peatland products can provide, replacing maybe some degrading practices or those ones which are drainage based. Now we would like to hand over to all the panelists, and we have a couple of facilitated focus questions for this session. I would invite Elizabeth to share on the screen, and all the panelists, if you want to open or be ready to open your microphones, I will try to facilitate this. We have at least 15, let's say 10 minutes to discuss on these questions and other questions which are still coming from the participants. I would encourage also to look at especially the open questions that we have. There's a lot of answered questions, and if we probably don't have time to cover all of them, but please still keep them coming, because we can then carry on the discussion also to the facilitated online platform, the D groups. So for the focus questions to answer the objectives of this session, when we're looking at the existing successful wet sustainable management approaches for livelihoods in the Indonesian peatlands, what would you pick as the key factors to plan for these activities? This is, of course, Pagaskari already answered the local, like the start on the initiative for these activities are coming from the local level. What other key factors you would success to consider? I would like to actually invite Ibu Siti Maimuna to answer this, and then we could hand over to Pak Marinus on the planning, key factors to planning. And similarly, it would be great if also our participants could answer this question, for example, in the chat. Key factors to plan. So second A. Over to you, Ibu Siti.
Okay.
Yes, now we hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. The question in the chatting is from Ibu Hesti, I think. We have about the nyamplung is not native species in peatland. We have found the egg calopulum in peatland, and one of them is similarly with nyamplung, like Kapurnaga Jangkar in Kalimantan local names, and Pintangur from Sumatra, and they are the similarly for genetic above 90%. And I think the question about this, and the question about me about the nyamplung is the other species for species trial in the peatland for bioenergy for Gamal and Kaliandra to make the wood pellet and Kemiri Sunan and Kapur and Nyamplung for bioenergy and Taman oil. Maybe for me about this only in the chat, Maria. And I have writing the answer to the participant.
Okay, wonderful. So I hear Ibu Siti, I'm sorry for, you remember right, indeed, I asked you to, if you wanted to comment on the concerns about non-native species. Yes, very good. Would you like to carry on also in this, if when you're thinking about the planning of with the communities for the wet sustainable livelihood options, would you have any suggestions for the key factors to plan for these activities?
The community only to look the successful activities, successful program for peatland restoration, I think, and they will to follow us for many program if the program is have many benefit for them. I think only the key success in the community only to make some example for them and so to make some example and only to them, and they will applicate it for their livelihood, maybe to change the livelihood for the sustainable product.
Thank you for this response, Ibu Siti. Indeed, and great, and we can go back to your responses also in the question and answers pod. The next, I would like to hand over to Pak Marinus on the first, if you want to cover the question about the non-native species, and the secondly, on the what are the key factors you have been identifying to plan for wet livelihood activities. Over to you, Pak.
Thank you. From my opinion, related with non-native species, some of non-native species we already plant in peatland. For example, Gaharu, Aquilaria malacensis, and then the pineapple, I think, is non-native species from peatland. Next question. What is the next question? Sorry, Maria.
Thank you. Yes, the next question is on the what you see on the screen on the facilitated discussion. What would you recommend as the key factor to plan for livelihood activities on wet peatlands? Over to you.
Key factor is one of the key factor is it must be no need drainage, so we can save peatland from fire. Is the key factor, I think. So we must elaborate and socialize some product that can plant into in peatland without read the line. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bang Marinus. I have a question from Elizabeth. Thank you.
Yeah, many thanks, Maria. So to continue on the most voted questions in the question and answer chat pod. So we have also a question for Pakaskari from Daniel Mordeaso about the hydrology data, such as the water level and water content in the restored sites, whether this is available for the public. If you could provide some information and answer this question, Pakaskari.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question from Pak Daniel. So that for the community area, the data is available because the BRG already set up the data for the community area, but for the concession area, it's still limited for access because it has two sides of the money, because it can be used for good and bad. So that's why still limited for the access. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And maybe, as we have also asked to the other speakers, if you want to highlight what would be, in your opinion, some of the key factors to plan in order to do the existing, to plan the sustainable management approaches for livelihoods in the Indonesian peatlands. If you want to follow up on that, Pakaskari, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the questions. In my opinion, based on the experience that we have, that one of the key factors, the first one is educating the community and also giving them the, say, the alternative for their livelihoods. And also, that's the first one, because it will impact directly to the field. The second one is the coordination between the government agencies, because on the some area that some of the canal blockings that we have constructed has been, say, destroyed by some other institution through their function, of course. So this is the coordination is a must to be carried out, particularly in the field implementation. I think that's the two approaches, because if we talk about the forest fire, there are three main factors. The first one is human factors. The second one is the climate factors, but the climate is not regulated by the human being. And the third one is the land properties itself. Because we have that's a huge difference between the soil, the peatland soil and the mineral soil. So that the human factor is one of the very key factors in order to say alleviate all of the problems. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Pakaskari, for the really good answer to these questions. So I think Maria, you wanted to take one more question and then we may move forward. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Indeed, before we hand over to Ibu Sonia from ECRAF C4, we wanted to ask for any final comments from Diana. There was also a question about valuating peatlands for their kind of also for their economic value in conservation when managing in conservation status. Now, I'm not able to find it in the among the abundant questions, but if you want to have any final comments from your side, Diana, over to you. Thank you.
Yes, thanks very much. And really, thank you so much for all these incredible presentations. I think there is that thread of concern as well on the selection of non-native species. And I wanted to definitely emphasize that if we are going to look at building back better and differently, going back to investing in understanding the potential of native species is really quite vital. And I suppose in the question that you posed on key factors to plan for, of course, community engagement, understanding the cultural connection and expectations of those communities for their development and also for their livelihoods and well-being. And I think that it's this understanding the cultural traditional uses as well that can help us to reinvestigate and overcome some of the really technically intrusive approaches and looking more through an ecosystem lens. So I would say that really when you need to plan approaches, and you need to look at the whole peat dome, the hydrological ecosystem, because if you have something happening on one part of the dome and that's disrupting others, it fails. So I think this sort of community or larger scale collaboration is quite important that we're talking about. And we have these tools, strategic environmental impact assessments. We also tools like safeguards approaches. And I think that those are really accessible and very, very not only accessible, but extremely understandable. Coming back to the foundation of asking our questions to ourselves of what sort of impact will this intervention hold for the people and also, you know, the communities living around it. I think that that's quite vital. So just coming back to basics, we have so many tools, including, Maria, you mentioned about the natural capital accounting. A lot of countries are pursuing that approach. We have also great answer complemented by Adam on payment for ecosystem services. And I think that some of the work that UNEP's doing with its sustainable land use finance in innovating and creating finance facilities like the Tropical Landscapes Finance Facility, and also creating funds like the And Green Fund that actually puts in criteria that is against deforestation, and also on the peatlands front against degradation and drainage. So we are seeing companies that have a long-term future for prosperity investing in activities and projects that actually don't do any ecosystem degradation. And I think that that's a great example. The Tropical Landscapes Finance Facility is also one of those, where blending private and public sector funds guaranteed by USAID is really going to yield results because it's a support project that's linked up as a community. So I think I would like to also congratulate Indonesia as well for innovating in a lot of these areas, putting in the financing policy and also experimenting. It's really quite important for other countries besides those in Indonesia. I think that a lot of people can learn from each other. It's such a big country and there's so much going on, but I also really hope that we can export these experiences elsewhere. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, Diana. And indeed, that gives a good opportunity to highlight the upcoming session that we have together on the finances for sustainable livelihoods in the RRR conference coming up in early March. That's a little save the date for you. We'll share more information about that as we have the agenda available. But without further ado, I think we have to close the discussion already. It would have been great to carry on a little bit longer, but in the interest of time, I'm just handing over to Sonia, and I would hope you to, if people are able to stay 5 minutes over the time, 5 to 7 minutes, that would be great, because we have still a closing from our own pack, Adam, after that. Over to you, Ibu Sonia, for concluding remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. This has been a very, very lively, and I think it's very informative, and it's kind of the discussion is also so lively. So it's kind of very difficult to summarize or to put everything in a nutshell. But I'm going to try. So I might miss some of the keynotes, but basically there are, we have 4 sessions in this discussion. The first one is the setting the tone by Pak Dick Trenchard from FAO, and then followed by Pak Alu Dohong, the Vice Minister of Ministry of Environment and Forestry, and then it's followed by Diana, and then Elizabeth and Maria, and then a technical session, and then another discussion. So the keynotes, the setting the tone session, in that session, Pak Dick already underlined the commitment and leadership of Indonesia in sustainable peatland management, but also the challenges as well in terms of searching for long-term option and solution. So in this, the setup for this particular session, there are two main questions to be answered. The first one is the examples for sustainable value chain finance and policy for peatland management. The second one is a landscape level approach to maintain peatlands wet while ensuring community livelihoods. And these activities of the Global Peatland Initiative have been supported generously by the PMU IKI, the International Climate Initiative of the German Ministry of Environment. And then the Vice Minister, Pak Alu Dohong, underlined the critical role of peatland ecosystems in climate regulation, while it also provides crucial ecosystem services, especially water cycling and livelihood sources. He highlighted the need for solutions that maintain peatland wets, and also he mentioned about the needs for landscape approach as the way to go in managing peatland. And then one important thing that he highlighted is that COVID pandemic may bring pressure to peatland ecosystem economically and socially, and therefore recovery strategy is necessary to build back better. He also then in the question and answer session, he underlined the fact that, you know, the concern that people have about food estate, that basically from out of the 1.4 million hectares of ex-megarized areas, only partial to that will be used to grow rice, while actually that will also comply to the master plan that has been developed based on evidence, based on science, that has 4 particular zones in that ex-mechanized project. So then that session was closed, and then we have Diana Kopansky from UNEP actually then had a very good summary in terms of the initiatives, the events, series of events, the ministerial declaration, etc., in terms of South-South cooperation, and in particular ITPC, the International Tropical Peatlands Centre, has been flying quite in a good trajectory. And then Diana invites a broad audience to join forces in voicing that peatland matters. So let's do, yeah. And then Elizabeth and Maria of FAO presented the global need assessment survey of the GPI, and then conveying about the conclusion about these 43 respondents that has been filing or inputting their response. And then Maria invites participants as well to contribute to the good wet practice study cases. There are templates that has been developed, so please do respond as much as you can. And then the next session about the technical presentations, the conclusion basically is wet livelihoods exist, yeah. And then Pak Marinus from Fordia has shown a good number of potential commodities for wet or rewetted peatlands, from purun, perupuk, purun for pulp, and then local food species as like fungi, water chestnut, and lotus. And also he mentioned about the collaborative work with local communities in Kalimantan already. Yeah, and then Ibu Siti from Instiper Yogyakarta presented about the potential of nyamplung for bioenergy and restoration of degraded peatlands. This is according to her research, this is a great solution to engage local communities on peatland. And then This studies has already showcased the empowerment of communities leading to conservation and environmental sustainability. And then Pak Askari, the next speaker is Pak Askari from the Ministry of Environmental and Environment and Forestry, particularly from Peat Degradation Control Directorate. He comprehensively shared 4 main points. The first one is about the challenges in peatland degradation due to drainage. The second one is about peatland protection and management that has been very heavily regulated. There have been 29 regulation guidelines and standards in place. And then the third one is about the strong achievement in peat hydrological unit inventory in terms of in canal blocking and also in local community livelihoods. The fourth topic that he mentioned is about the monitoring system of soil moisture after canal blocking that has been developed, and it's called CIMATAC 0.4 meters. He highlighted the different, also the other things, different milestone that has been achieved by the ministry. Yeah. And then in the panel discussion, the participants asked about many different aspects, but we highlight only 3 here. One is that peatlands, about peatland species, the economic valuation of products from peatlands, the indicators for measuring success for peatland restoration at the landscape scale, and many other interesting questions along that line. And also speakers have highlighted the importance to account for cultural and traditional knowledge on peatlands. And then the last one, in terms of the question and answer for the future, participants also were interested in economic analysis of the livelihood options, and this discussion can carry on in the online community. So all in all, these have been a very rich sessions that give us hope for a better future, where wet peatland landscapes and sustainable wet livelihoods become the new norm. So to conclude, there are 5 points we would like to share. The first one is there is an urgent need for solutions that maintain peatland wet. The second one is that wet peatlands are the only sustainable pathway to stop emissions, fires, and peatland degradation and prevent the loss of livelihoods. And the third one, there have been many examples for wet livelihood that are already exist. The fourth one is that it is important to underline the landscape approach and empower local communities. It is basically the system approach to include the broader scale of peatland restoration and management is actually the way to go. This has been also been underlined by Pak Alu. And then the fifth one, through various initiatives, practitioners can exchange and share best practices. This is a knowledge management part that is very important to be underlined. So together we can share the success stories and lessons learned. So I think that would be the very, hopefully the very succinct sort of concluding points that we extract together from this session today. So hopefully this will be useful for all of the participants. So back to you, Maria. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Ibu Sonia. We thank you, as it's really appreciated from your side to do these concluding remarks as the eCraft Country Program Coordinator for Indonesia and Senior Landscape Ecologist. We're really happy to have here also that there is a new project also funded by the German IKI to work on the sustainable livelihoods and peatland management, and also similarly which is called the peat impacts, and of course the results of your working with the GIZ on a project called SUPAR, where we have those catalogs for sustainable peatland management coming up in the coming months already. So without further ado, just to close for today's session, apologizing for the slight delay, I would like to hand over for Adam for a quick closure and collection of feedback. Over to you.
Thank you, Maria. And I ask if Elizabeth can share the slides, please. I'll be quick because we've had a long session, but it's been fantastic. And I do want to tell you a little bit about some of the things that we've got coming up. Firstly, we'd like you to fill in the feedback form for this session so that we can help improve our future work. And we are very interested in what you're interested in and try and meet your needs in our next sessions. Next slide, please. So the extra steps that we are going to do is we would really like to continue to meet your needs. So we want to get some further feedback on the needs assessment survey. We've been running this for over a year and we have hundreds of responses globally, but it's really good to get the people who are actively interested like you who have attended this session. So I encourage you, we will be sharing these slides and we encourage you to click that link in the point 1 there and fill in the needs assessment. We will also be sharing good practices that we've heard today in a template, and we have ways of collecting that information and sharing that amongst globally and certainly amongst our participants and colleagues in Indonesia. And we will be sharing the presentations from this session and our future sessions through the link that we've got there. The recordings and the summary points will also be there, and you will get an invitation to the next session. Finally, it's my great pleasure in closing, really to thank everybody here today. We've had over 150 people here. We've still got over 100 at the end, even though we've gone over time. So I'll be very quick. We've had some excellent presentations, and I really thank all of our speakers, right from the Vice Minister who took his time and gave us his presentation and then stayed for the questions and answered some very important questions there. We've had some excellent technical presentations. And I'm really excited by the participation we've had from the audience. Your typing of questions, you're asking, and then our respondents and our panelists in answering them. It's been fantastic. So from my point of view, from our side, we are very pleased to be able to arrange this, facilitate it, but it's you the participants and the speakers who have done all of the hard work and make this session a success. So from my side, from FAO, on behalf of FAO, UNEP, and all of our over 40 partners in the Global Peatlands Initiative, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, and others from agencies in Indonesia that have supported us, and from C4, CGIAR, we thank you very much for your time, and I'll close the session. Thanks. Bye from me.